The next time we get a gigantic sell-off that crushes the averages like we had this morning, I want you to remember that this kind of breakdown creates opportunities, with the panic giving you a chance to buy shares in some very compelling high-growth companies at lower prices than you'd otherwise be able to find. Take Novavax, NVAX, a vaccine developer that targets all sorts of diseases, including Ebola, where the stock has been on a monster run up 120% since we first spoke to the CEO in mid-January, and up more than 55% since we last spoke to him in February. Yesterday, Novavax was catapulted into the stratosphere, roaring 24% higher from $11 and change up to $13.89 after the company reported a solid quarter and, more importantly, announced some incredibly positive data from the phase 2 trials of their vaccine for RSV, a highly contagious respiratory virus. But today, Novavax got dragged down with the rest of the market, declining by nearly 8% at one point before rebounding along with the average, closed down 24 cents or 1.7%, perhaps giving you a chance to get into this exciting story at a nice discount. So let's dig deeper with Stanley Erck. He's the president and CEO of Novavax. Find out more about these clinical trials results and what the company's prospects. Mr. Erck, welcome back to Mad Money. Good to see you, sir.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for inviting me.
Have a seat, Stan. I have to tell you that there were many people who promoted that they had things. I went back over the last 2 times you were on. You were non-promotional. You just said, let's see what the science can bear. These are very hard vaccines. How are you able to make them while others have not had much success?
So, as you point out, people have been working on this RSV problem for over 50 or 60 years since the virus was first identified. We took a new approach in how we actually construct the vaccine, how we genetically engineer from the gene sequence a molecule which becomes a nanoparticle. The nanoparticle is formulated into a vaccine, and the vaccine's injected, and it sets off a powerful immune response and stimulates antibodies that we know from other drugs can be protective.
Now, Stan, this is babies. It's also pregnant women and then elderly.
Right.
All could stand to benefit from this.
Yes, both ends of the age spectrum. It's in babies, in children under 1. It's the largest cause of hospitalization in the United States, RSV. And it also affects the elderly who have a senescent immune system. Right. And there are 2.5 million infections with symptomatic infections in the elderly every year, with 14,000 deaths every year.
Now, let's talk about pandemic influenza.
Right.
People forget it. In 1917, we had an influenza epidemic that was just killed hundreds of thousands of people. We are always concerned about it. You may have something.
Well, we think we do. We think our platform allows us to make, again, a very potent immune response. But the advantage that our system has is that we can make a vaccine very quickly. I think I mentioned before that a couple of years ago we made a vaccine against avian flu. Right. From the day the gene sequence was identified to the time that we got it into 230 individuals in a clinical trial, 91 days. It's never been done before. So we did the same thing with Ebola. Last September, when it was clear that Ebola was out of control, we decided to make a vaccine against Ebola. We scaled it up and made what they call a GMP material that's suitable for human trials, got into humans in February, and last week we announced that we had made a vaccine that has, we think, some important advantages over other Ebola vaccines that have been tried, including you have a very potent immune response. It can be distributed at refrigerated temperatures instead of frozen, and we can make millions of doses a month if we need to.
I understand. The other companies that were involved in these projects are very big brand name companies. And they actually issued a lot of releases, some of them, saying they had it. Why can little Novavax do something that some of these, the biggest drug companies in the world couldn't do?
Well, it's what biotech industry does. So we disrupt. We have novel ways of making things that are not the non-traditional ways of making the vaccines. And so we've done that, and we've now done it a couple different times. And it's what you do in little companies like ours.
Well, I think it's very exciting. And, again, I want to tell everyone, Stanley's not promotional. And yet everything he said could happen has happened. That's Stanley Erck. He's president and CEO of Novavax, NVAX. Go do some homework. Pretty interesting company. Stay with Cramer.